Greetings, Judah. DFD here. DFG here, Gideon Flight. I'm laughing. I just had a little funny thought a second ago. I don't have to share that with you. Nothing vulgar, bad, anything like that. It's sometimes when Yah give us a word, it's like a two-sided sword. He says it cuts, both ways. And I think I got cut by the word I'm about to share with you all. But anyway, this will be a short message, but something to encourage you, or at least to challenge you to reflect in these last and evil days. If you've been following me on my platform, you know that I've already forewarned us on, Sunday going through, all of next week that we need to be on special alert as a people. With that being said, I want to share with you a scenario. Have you ever felt that you were being attacked? Have you ever felt that, all the people that who you would believe that would be standing there for you in times of despair, when you needed them the most, they abandoned you. Although you had given your all to try to not only and be a contributor to them, maybe even an inspiration to them, without question supportive of them, in a time of crisis, they have turned their backs on you. And obviously, if that has happened to you, like it's probably have, if you are any person that is doing anything with your life outside of sitting at home, watching television, eating chips, and clogging up your arteries, waiting for Yah to remove, your unimportant spirit from the land. If that description doesn't fit you, then you are out doing the work. You're out here, planting seeds. You're out here raising families. You're out here leading men. You're out here leading women. I'm talking to you. Have you ever been in that place where that everything that you seem to have loved doesn't seem to love you back? And you find yourself, depressed, distressed. If that has happened to you, can I tell you something? You don't want to know what your problem is, your depression is, because of all those things that have turned on you? You know what your problem is? And this is why I laughed at myself. You need to learn how to be humble. You have an issue with pride. Judah, our people, we are some of the most rebellious people on the planet. And when it comes to prideful, we're second to none. Although we're at the very bottom, of everything that's measurable in terms of successes. And obviously this is because of the judgment of Yah. I'm talking about why we're at the bottom. And the reason being because of that arrogance and pride. Because the minute something happens to us, we want to take offense. We want to take and start tearing down instead of reflecting and finding ways to build up. And that's called arrogance, believe it or not. Now, I know the religious out there say, see, yeah, now he's on track. Now he's finally getting it. Bullshit. You've already missed the mark. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you're under oppression. I'm talking about when you're under distress. I'm talking about when the whole world seems to be against you. Stop being rebellious, stop being high-minded, and humble yourself. Because if you do that, Yah has a special plan for you. I get it. Okay, yeah, you're like, okay. I don't believe you. Okay. Well, can our history book help you? Okay, if and again, for you men out there, you Hebrew Israelite males. I'm not talking about the ones who study. I'm talking about for you who don't study. You so-called unbelievers because the white man interfered with our word. Interfered with everything. That's the nature of the devil. All white men aren't the devil because some white men are us. Just leopard or light-skinned or whatever you want to call them. Yeshua said you should know a tree by the fruit that it bear. As he told the disciples when they were complaining about these others who were out there teaching. They say, who are these people? They don't have permission to teach. You know what Yeshua told Peter and the rest of them? He said, if they're not against us, they're for us. Sometimes They may not look like you, but they are you. You'll know them by their works. Okay? Just keep that in the back of your mind. And if you're part of Judah, you know good so damn well, somewhere down your family tree, you got some very light-skinned, limited melanin people in your family chain. And they're as much as you met. Some of them are more serious than many of us. How many of you guys, and I'm going to digress for a second. I think it's Ferguson versus Duplessis, I want to say. And this was all about separate but equal. You know, this goes way back to about the late 1800s. All right? If you're familiar with Ferguson versus Duplessis, then Duplessis was a man who had been, and I may have the two wrong, because I don't have my history book in front of me, but my history is accurate, who didn't want to give up his seat. He was a black man, so-called Negro, who did not want to give up his seat on a train to a white person. And they went to law, and they fought about this. And so the law declared that, okay, we don't have to accommodate the Negro in terms of having him sit with us, but we have to accommodate him in terms of giving him equal access to us. That's why the white fountains and the colored fountains, white theaters, color, that's all that came out of that. But the Ferguson guy was a very, very light-skinned, white-looking Hebrew. Just so you know, okay? Now back to the subject at hand. If that arrogance inside of you, that rebelliousness is inside of you because of all these things that appear to be against you, you work very hard and then you end up feeling rejected, neglected, unappreciated. And now you're in your feelings. Well, let me share something with you from our history book that is a reflection of arrogance. And you need to learn how to humble yourself if you want to be released, if you want to be strengthened. But none of it matters my word means nothing if the word of Yah doesn't back it up. And so I keep this circle nice and tight. That's what I was saying a moment ago. Has Esau interfered with the word? Yeah, he tried to. He's hidden some. He took books out of it. Book of Enoch, we talked about this before. But just because he planted tares with the wheat does not mean that the wheat is not wheat. The wheat is wheat no matter what you think. All right? It's still good for food, but you better get the tares out. So this is still good for food. You just need the rahut to be able to separate the truth from their lies. That way when the infiltrator comes, you'll know it's the infiltrator, and you got the word to contradict the lie that the infiltrator is trying to project upon you. And the rahut gives you the ability to discern the difference between the two. Without it, you'll just be one of these rotten preachers telling lies about wealth and prosperity and telling our people to wait for some God in the sky to come down and fix their problems when he's already given them the ability to fix it themselves, right here, right now on earth. Okay, but let me give you an example of how that worked for one of our ancestors. How about this, our Uncle David? Go to 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 1. And it's going to be a short lesson here, brothers and sisters. And it came to pass when David and his men would come from Zigzag on the third day, and that the enemy had invaded their people, and had taken their women captives there within, and they slew not any, great or small, but carried them away and went on. So they took these. So David's men had gone out to war, and when they're following David, and when they got back to their families were gone. And then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. And David's two women were taken captive. And the women and he goes on to talk about who they were. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of killing him. Now you hear what I just said? The people spoke of killing. That's what I shared with you earlier. Now you think with all this stuff that has happened, isn't he justified with being distressed? Isn't he justified with moaning and weeping and crying? But this is the example that David set for us to follow by the grace of Yah, by the love of Yah, so that we would have a map on how to work through these type of things and not get arrogant, not get high-minded, not go out and become violent or vicious or retaliatory, vengeful. Here it goes, verse 6. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of killing him, because the soul of all the people were grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David, you know what David did? He didn't get arrogant. He didn't get violent. He didn't get hostile. He didn't become, resistant or rebellious like many of us can do. This is what David did. The book says, but David, with all of these things, but David encouraged himself before Yahuwah Elohim. And David said to the priest, I pray you bring me hither the ephod. And Abba brought hither the ephod to David. And David inquired of Yahuwah, saying, shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover everything that you lost. Why? Because he humbled himself before Yah. Instead of him taking action and going against the people who had rebelled against him, the people who wanted to kill him for the losses that they had incurred for following him, because after all, he was their leader, but they felt that through his ignorance, he had betrayed them all. Instead of David, quitting, giving up, going in a room and pouting, falling into his own depression, or at least staying in his own depression, the book says he encouraged himself before Yah. He got around the other men of Yah and petitioned Yah, and Yah gave him an answer and said, go out. You're going to get everything you had lost. You're going to get it back without any loss. And guess what else David got? He got all the stuff of the enemy as well, because he was able to humble himself and not take action without direction, without inspiration and guidance from Yah. The book tells us who Elohim loveth, he chastises as a father chastises his son. Keep that in mind, Israel. And let me close this out with one little piece here. Praise Yah. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 7. Just so we have a precept here, line upon line. This is what Yah says to you, to me, all of our people. That's why you saw me laughing in the beginning of this video, because I felt convicted as well. He says, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves, as David did, and pray, as David did, and seek my face, as David did, and turn from their ways, wicked ways. Because when you go out before Yah, you're acting in wickedness. When you go out there in pride, when you go out there in arrogance, you go out there in vengeance, you go forward in anger, Yah said you are wicked. He says, then will they hear from heaven, and I will forgive their transgression, and I will heal their lands, and their eyes will be open, and their ears will hear and my eyes will be open, says Yah. I will hear their prayer, and I will heal them. This is the word. And again, as an encouragement in these wicked and evil times, it's going to be easy to go out and make poor decisions. Seek Yah first. He will share you how, he will teach you, he will share with you how to move amongst the enemy. Did not Yah say we should be wise as serpents, but harmless as doves? Who are the serpents? He's talking about the seed of Satan. Esau, Edom, and the rest of his cousins and relatives. They are the serpent people. And he said, you got to be as wise as they are. But you got to be humble, as a dove. In other words, you got to come before me so I can guide you, I can feed you, I can share with you so that they can't overcome you. And your high-mindedness and your bitterness and your anger and your arrogance will sabotage the Rahuk inside of you, my brothers and my sisters, and you won't hear from Yah. And the consequences will be as they have been for us for generations. At the bottom, the tail instead of the head. It's time for us to move forward, my brothers and sisters. It's time for us to turn to Yah and seek our answers from him. Understand it doesn't matter what happens. What matters is how we respond and how we move forward, but not in some, riddles or an occultic way that the world teaches. Now what happened to you is how you respond. Not that lie. They stole that from us, by the way, that quote. It's about going before Yah and Yah leading you into all truth. Yeshua said, you shall know the truth, and that truth shall set you free. I'll end this video again laughing at me as the first student of the lesson I'm sharing with you. Talk to you later, Judah. Bye now.